is going on, everybody? The MLB trade deadline, it came and it went. There were some big splashes, there were some minor moves, but all around I thought it was very entertaining. It started out funky. Let's be real. Once that 4 o'clock window closed, there were a lot of MLB fans unhappy, a little underwhelmed. Where was all the noise? And I was one of them. At first I questioned if ownership knew how to handle this new deadline. If they knew how to handle the situation where it was one hard date and that's it. But as we waited a couple minutes later, Ken Rosenthal, all these ESPN reporters, other athletic reporters outside of Ken Rosenthal, MLB.com writers, news starts breaking. Zack Greinke goes to the Astros, other moves around the cities. So it was almost as if 4 o'clock was the hard deadline, but news started to break right after that. There was about a 15-minute window of just splashes getting thrown on us. And to be completely honest with you, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. We'll get into the signings, but first, we need to talk about the new deadline. There is no reason why there should be a deadline, with air quotes, and then you have 3 weeks to sign players. That's how it was before this year. That doesn't make sense. I hate the argument that upper management and ownership should have more time. They should have till the middle of August, late August, to see if their team is good enough, to see if they're buyers or sellers. Hell no. It's July 31st. We are 100-plus games into the season. If your ownership doesn't understand where your team is by now, shame on them. That would be the beauty of having ownership and upper management and a good general manager that understands where their club is. How far away are they to the next step? How many more pieces do they need to be a contender? Are they too weak to be a contender no matter what they acquire? That would be the beauty of having someone you trust in the general manager position. I'm sorry, this makes it better. The pressure's on more, sure. But this makes it more interesting. I don't want to have a fake deadline and then 3-4 weeks down the road you can find a way to snag a good pitcher or snag a good bench bat or snag that outfielder that you couldn't find at the deadline. This makes it tougher. These make decisions harder. But good, we're talking about professional sports here. That's the way it should be. Put pressure on your upper management. Make them have to make the tough decisions. Make them have to look in the mirror and say, is it worth giving up these prospects for this player for that type of term to help this team win now? Are we good enough to win now? Do we hold on to these prospects? Put the pressure on them. This is the way it should be. I can't believe that there are that many supporters that want the deadline to be pushed back or to have the fake deadline and keep it the way it's been. But let's be real, that's how baseball works. There's baseball purists. There's the old-time baseball people that hate analytics and don't want to bring anything new into the game. And I would realistically put myself in that category when it comes to things like old-school baseball, bunting, moving runners over. I'm not a huge fan of analytics, but I understand that you can use them to your advantage. You don't have to live and die by them. It doesn't have to be the Bible, but you can at least use them to help you in certain situations. I would put myself in the baseball purist category if I love the old-time baseball better. Screw the launch angle. Screw all this new OBPS+++, the WAR. Screw all that. Give me singles. Give me small ball. Let's go back to that style of play. But when it comes to the deadline, this is the way it should be done. This is professional sports. I want to see elite upper management people make elite plays in their field. Obviously not out on the field, but in their respected environment, make an elite play. Go out and grab that guy. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. If you're in the wild card mix and you don't know what your team is going to be in 3 weeks, Well, if they're in the mix, if they're 2.5 games back at this moment right now, you're in the mix. Don't be afraid. I don't care if in 3 weeks you would be 5.5 back and you think you screwed up. And if the deadline was pushed back, then you wouldn't have made that move. I don't care. It's as simple as this. A hard deadline is the proper way to do it. It's different. It's definitely different. It's the way to do it. So let's talk about some of these splashes. And obviously, you take a look at the Houston Astros. And what they did was ridiculous to acquire Zack Greinke. Now keep in mind, Greinke, he has come out to the public, and there is an anxiety thing that he has going on, and big markets might scare him. Keep in mind the Yankees, things of that nature. So this was a unique situation. It wasn't just, hey, anyone can go after Zack Greinke. There was a lot in play here. But the Houston Astros were able to go out and grab this guy. And he is so good. A 2.87 ERA. He is now teamed up with Cole, Verlander. Come on, think about playing this team in the playoffs. It's funny because as a Phillies fan, I'm putting myself in the shoes of hopefully we can make the wild card, right? The second wild card, maybe. And I always play it in my head. Okay, say we win that wild card game somehow, some way. Aaron Nola pitches a gem and we find a way to win this game. Who would be afraid to play us when we threw out Jake Arrieta with a bone spur? Zach Eflin or Vince Velasquez or Drew Smiley or Jason Vargas? Who would be afraid to play the Phillies? I'll tell you, nobody. Literally nobody. And then I think of this team, this Houston Astros pitching staff. Oh yeah, game 1 of the playoffs you're seeing Verlander. Game 2, you're seeing Zack Greinke or Cole. And then game 3, whoever doesn't pitch game 2. This is ridiculous. Now what they gave up, some prospects. Martin, Beer, Rojas, Bukauskas. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've dissected all of these prospects and understand how great and valuable they are. But inside the Astros organization, they're higher up in their prospect pool, as they should be to acquire someone like Zack Greinke. Keep in mind, Greinke's numbers very, very high when it comes to contract. When I say numbers, I'm talking about money and how much he's making. The Diamondbacks send the Astros $24 million, but Greinke's contract has $53 million remaining. Hefty contract. There's no denying that, and the Diamondbacks, they want to get this off the books. It's that clear. It was killing them. It was killing them to have that type of money on the books, so they made the move. And I think both teams realistically made out. Now, that's not all the Astros did, though, which is the scary thing. Aaron Sanchez. They picked up another bullpen help from the Blue Jays as well. The Astros are scary. And when I saw this trade happen, I decided, let me go to MLB.com. Let me look at some stats from these players from the Houston Astros because I know how nasty they are. I watch a ton of random baseball games because I have the MLB subscription so I can watch all the out-of-market games, and I watch so many outside of the Phillies, but I don't normally crush into, okay, who's leading the league in this and that, and I decided, let me take a look. Let me just glance at the Astros and look at their lineup and seeing how they're producing individually. Altuve's hitting .300. Okay. We knew he was a talented player. Springer, .288. Brantley, .321. Gurriel, .299. Bregman, he's only hitting .259. Oh, okay. 26 home runs, 82 walks, and 63 RBIs. This is ridiculous. This changed the game. Then you look at other teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox who made no moves. Now, the Red Sox, they're in a tougher spot than I would say the Yankees. The Yankees are legitimately contending. Not that the Red Sox aren't. I believe the Red Sox are a team that can squeak into a playoff spot, obviously win a wild card game, and then it's fair game because their roster is clearly talented. They just came off a really, really bad start to start the season off. And they haven't played as good as, say, last year, but they're not this horrendous team. But you look at the Yankees and how they're leading the AL East. to come up with nothing, and to see the Houston Astros attack their pitching staff like this, starting rotation and the bullpen. I mean, come on. I don't know who can take this team down. I really don't. This team is legitimately stacked. Stacked. By the way, the Dodgers didn't do too much either. So the big market squads are the ones that somewhat were quiet? Now, why is that? Do you really believe that because the deadline is the way that it is, no one knows how to really pursue it yet? There's still question marks on how to approach this? See, I can't think that way if I'm the Yankees. Because the only way this deadline screws you up is if you don't know if you're a buyer or seller yet. You're the Yankees, you're a buyer. It's clear as day. Things fall apart. Robbie Ray falls apart. There was some speculation around that. You have Stroman going to the Mets. A rival in your city ends up stealing Stroman. Now, speaking of that, that's so interesting that Stroman goes to the Mets. And realistically, the Mets didn't give up that much when it comes to their prospect pool. But you also have Trevor Bauer going to the Reds. So what this is saying is you have two pitchers who get traded to teams that realistically aren't making the playoffs. Two really good pitchers. Really good pitchers. Going to teams who are not in the race. This is so not how the deadline is supposed to work. This whole thing is throwing everyone in for a loop. No one knows how to react right now. And I find it intriguing. I find it entertaining. People are lost. People don't know how to approach this. What moves do you make? There's so many questions. But the easiest answer to one of the biggest questions after the deadline, who came out on top, who came out the best team, that's the Houston Astros. The AL playoffs is going to be a nightmare for anyone outside of Houston. I remember watching the Phillies in '08 do their thing, and I hate being one of those people. I really do. I hate being one of those people now where so many years after the World Series, oh, I remember that team. I remember Jimmy Rollins this and Chase Utley that, and being from the Philadelphia sports area, that's what everybody does here. When they criticize the Phillies, it's, oh, but back in '08 they wouldn't have done that, and back in '08 to '11 when we had that amazing run, we would never do that. I hate to be that guy. But when I look at this team on paper, and realistically what they've done throughout the last couple seasons, I can't help but remember those times. Think about those memories. They have that type of team. They have that type of team. You can't deny it. Now, when you compare it to maybe the deep pitching rotation that the Phillies have, not that I'm saying the Astros weren't. And aren't, I mean, not that they aren't now, but you're talking about Cole Hamels, Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay. You're talking about that type of squad. I don't know. It would be a good battle. That's just, that's just me maybe being a little biased, though. So there were some other moves around the MLB. The Giants were in a weird spot because they bought and sold. They let some relievers go. They keep Madison Bumgarner, but they get Scooter Gennett. So it was a weird, hey, we're in there, we're not in there, we're going to sell, we're going to keep, we're going to buy, a little bit of everything there. I know the Giants had this obnoxiously fantastic July. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you can put them in the same category as that second wild card spot team between the Phillies, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Nats. Those type of squads are battling it out. I feel like the Giants are just a little bit behind them. But when you're thinking about the Madison Bumgarner situation, this is franchise changing. Iconic to the franchise. I don't know if the GM has final say on a move like Madison Bumgarner. It might have to go all the way up to the top because this is a guy who has brought this franchise so much positivity when it comes to winning. A lot of elite moments in big-time playoff games. and he brings people to the ballpark. He does. He fills the seats. Now, he only pitches one every 5 days, of course, one every 5 games, but he is so much bigger than just a random trade, just selling at the deadline a random pitcher. And they elect to keep Madison Bumgarner, so we'll see how that goes. Keeping it in the NL East, though, being obviously someone who watches other moves around the NL East, because the Phillies get Corey Dickerson, who I'm a big fan of. I think that was a great acquisition. He's a rental for the rest of the year. He has a good batting average. He's a true professional. The Phillies didn't pick up any pitching, and the 2 teams above them did. The Braves did a very good job attacking that bullpen. Shane Green, that is a very big addition. And Melancon. Melancon was fantastic of a pickup. They did such a good job of bulking up that bullpen. See, here's where the Braves are. Last year, it was fun. They got to the playoffs. They were able to make some noise. They were able to gain some experience. Their young roster was able to go into a playoff atmosphere, feel what it's like, and just have a really good mindset going into that playoff run. But this year is different. They're 1 year deeper. They have an extra year of growth. They have higher expectations, as they should. So making moves like this, it's just the right way. Like, as a Phillies fan, I hate to admit this, but the Braves are in a really good spot right now. They are. Coming from last year, somewhat overachieving, I'd say. Getting some experience, really going through the motions in that playoff ride. I'm telling you, there's a big positive from going to the playoffs and just seeing what the atmosphere is like. I talk about it all the time with getting Aaron Nola that wild card game to pitch. That's why I need to see the Phillies make the playoffs. For him to see it. For him to be on that mound, look around, see all the Nuts fans, probably in an away stadium. But he needs that inside feeling. And he needs to embrace it. Well, the Braves got that. And now they're bringing in players who can really help arguably their weakest point. And I believe Shane Green was an outstanding pickup. And so was the rest of the bullpen help. And with the Nationals, I mean, you got to tip their cap to whatever they've done this year with that amazing ride, the hottest team in baseball at one point. They started out the season slow. They found a way. Juan Soto, Rendon's doing his thing. I always loved their pitching staff. They always had this pitching staff that was elite in this league. Max Scherzer was my favorite pitcher to watch in baseball, outside of maybe Aaron Nola, but he's up there. He might even match that. That's how much I love Max Scherzer. And their bullpen was so horrendous early on. They make moves to fix that. So the NL East, the storyline coming out of that division was teams made moves to their bullpen. Not really the Phillies, but teams made moves to their bullpen. Don't even get me started on the Phillies. I do that too much on my Phillies recap videos and all that on separate occasions, and I can't even think about that right now. I just can't. The Twins are in such a weird spot to me. They're leading that AL Central. They pick up Sam Dyson, who will help, absolutely. Who will help. I like that pickup out of the Minnesota Twins, to be honest with you. But what are they? I'm not fully in on Minnesota. I'm not fully 100% involved in believing that they are legit. Now, they're fighting with the Indians a little bit, and obviously the Indians lose Trevor Bauer. They pick up Puig and Reyes, though. But they lose Trevor Bauer, who was obviously a nutcase, but he was a good pitcher. Really good pitcher. I can't believe he threw the ball from the mound over to the outfield once he got yanked in that baseball game. Absolute nutcase. I've never seen anything like it. But they're in the mix still. And in that AL Central, I don't know who to believe. Are the Twins legit? They're hitting the baseball. Fantastic. They hit the baseball. Oh, I watch them sometimes. And what I'm getting at is, I watch them sometimes. And I watch the Phillies, of course, every single night. And my eyes bleed when I watch the Phillies. compared to seeing the way the ball flies off the bat with this Minnesota Twins team. And I say that, yet I still don't know if they are it or not. Because it's not just what they are. It's what they are compared to other teams in the AL. I know they had that crazy home run series against the Yankees, but can they beat the Yankees in the playoffs? Is anyone going to beat Houston in the playoffs? Can they even win their own division? Because if they don't, can they win a wild card game? Are they in a spot like I just mentioned with the Atlanta Braves where getting experience might be the step this year? It's not all about winning it, but it's about the next step as an organization. Okay, this is going to be the new norm if I'm going to go Doug Peterson and the Philadelphia Eagles. If I can compare it to the Minnesota Twins saying, hey, we make it to the playoffs this year, and this is the new norm. We are going to consistently make the playoffs from here. I don't know if they have that type of organization, to be honest with you. So where are they? But Sam Dyson helps. Let's just go there. Chicago Cubs. Castellanos. Nice player. Nice outfielder. Hitting .273. He's got 37 doubles. I mean, you play on a bad team like the Tigers. You play on a bad team. Your mentality is so different every time you show up to the ballpark. As much as you say these guys are professionals, they go to the ballpark every day. They just focus on being good when they're up to bat and focusing on every single pitch. When you go to the ballpark knowing you've won 30 games out of 100, it's so much different when you're in a race, when you're thinking about the playoffs, when everything matters so much more, when everything is so much more criticized. And I'm saying that in a positive, as if he can help the Cubs, as if maybe he can produce more than that. But at the same time, I guess if the pressure's too high, it could go worse, but I don't think it'll be that way for him. The trade deadline for me, it was good. It was good. There was the one big splash was the Zack Greinke move, of course. The Trevor Bauer one didn't happen the day of the deadline. It happened previously the day before, so it wasn't as, kaboom, right there at 4 o'clock. And same thing with the Stroman trade to the Mets. That happened previously before the 4 o'clock hour. So it wasn't all at once crazy, filled with drama. The only one that really made me go, holy hell, was the Zack Greinke move. But there were some good pieces moved around. I thought that there were some assets that were traded that really will help some ball clubs, and I have to give it an A+. I have to give it an A+. I was shocked that some teams stayed quiet. It's weird to see the Boston Red Sox stay quiet. It's weird to see the Dodgers and the Yankees go silent into the night. But maybe there's a reason for it. I know the Yankees have some prospects that maybe they're expecting them to step up and be a big role. Their knock on the Yankees clearly has been, starting pitching as of late? Yes, absolutely. I'm hearing they're putting a lot of trust in calling up and seeing what happens. But to see the Boston Red Sox be quiet, that's interesting. It really is. Because they just won the World Series. Like I've stated before, I know their record is a little crazy, and it seemed like they've lost a little bit of a step from last year, because last year they were winning in all these exciting new ways and all these crazy different home runs, late in ball games, walk-offs, walk-off doubles, walk-off triples, and just all these insane ways to win baseball games. They were doing it last year. But at the end of the day, they're a good team. They have a good roster. You got players like Mookie Betts, JD Martinez. You have players who can really make it happen. Benintendi, Devers, Bogarts. Their team is really good. And maybe that acquisition, maybe that one or two players, specifically, they need help with some pitching. Their bullpen hasn't been the strongest this season. I'm surprised they didn't attack that at all. You're talking about a big market. What's this to the Red Sox? It's nothing. Are they that worried about the prospects? Did they pull a Matt Klentak of the Phillies? Oh, well, it's not our year. I don't think I want to give up anything. Because, if it's not our year, it's not worth it at all. Sure, I guess. But I don't believe in that fully. because there's ways to get something, even if it's not anything crazy, even if it's not a Zack Greinke, right? It's something. There's a way to do that without giving up your number 1 prospect, your number 2 prospect, your number 3 prospect. There's definitely ways to be effective and get around that. So I'm not big on the whole, it's not our year, we're not going to do it, we're not going to actually win the World Series, so why even try? I don't like that. You know what's been a big discussion as of late, though? The wild card game as a whole. The second wild card team, is it even worth it, or should it just be the wild card, the top wild card spot makes it? And I used to be against that theory. I used to love the fact that it was a wild card game. But the more you think about it, I've somewhat changed my thought process, and here's why. You need to, and I'll put it in perspective of the Phillies, because obviously putting it in the perspective of the Phillies helps me sleep more at night, because I think, wow, the Phillies are going to the wild card? Wow, the Phillies are making the playoffs? It helps me sleep at night. So, Aaron Nola pitches the wild card game. Name it. Name who we're playing. Doesn't matter. Anywhere, anytime, any field. Phillies take the W. But Aaron Nola pitches a gem, of course. Now we move on and play the Dodgers. Well, you're out of Aaron Nola. You're out of Aaron Nola. Well, you're not only do you have to play the one-game playoff, but now what happens? You start the next series off already down your best pitcher. Now, why does that make sense? Now, actually, I'm under the impression that this should be how it should go. Why is there a one-game playoff anyway? See, now I'm flip-flopping. Because I'm starting to go in the direction of, why should there even be a wild card game? A one game? Should it go back to where the first wild card team just makes the playoffs? I don't like the one wild card game is what I'm getting at. It's either the one team makes it, and from there the playoffs just start, or it's a 3-game series. The wild card series is 3 games. You play 3-game series all the time, sometimes 4. But the entire season is built around going to a city, playing 3 games. Going to the next city, playing 3 games. Going to the next city, maybe playing 4 games. That's how this season is literally played out. Ooh, I took 2 or 3 here. We took 3 here. We swept the Nats. Right? That's what you do all season long. 162 times. Why all of a sudden does it come down to 1 game where anything can happen? Where anything can happen. I heard the argument of, well, what if game 1 is a 7-0 game? Well, then it's boring. No one cares. What if the wild card game is a 7-0 game? You don't tune in. No one cares. Now, I'm an obnoxious sports fan. I watch anything. I'm watching 1962 hardwood classics in black and white on NBA TV. I'm watching the tennis channel, black and white tennis matches. No, I'm not, but you know what I'm saying. I'll watch anything. But baseball is very regionalized. It's all about the region. The common sports fan isn't going to tune in from Philadelphia, right? The common sports fan. I'm not talking about the people who are on my level who are just ridiculous and don't do anything but sports. But the common sports guy. On a Wednesday night, are you going to tune in to a Minnesota Twins? I'm just Tampa Bay Rays. I'm just spitballing here. Minnesota Twins, Tampa Bay Rays. You get to see the opener, right? You're not even seeing like these 2 elite studs pitchers go off. No, you're seeing the opener for Tampa Bay play the Minnesota Twins in a wild card game when it's 6-0 in the 6th inning. No. Are they going to do that in a best-of-3 series in Game 1? Maybe not either. My point being, though, is the argument of there's no drama in a 3-game series. I don't know if I can go to that. Because that's the argument of, the 1-game playoff, it's drama-filled because it's just 1 and anything can happen. Yes and no. I can't live and die by that. I see what you're saying, but I can't live and die by that. I think there's more reasons to support either going to just, hey, you are the top wildcard team, you get to play in the playoffs, or the 3-game series. But the one, it doesn't make sense. You do something one way for 5-6 months, 4, 5, 6 months, however long the season is, and all of a sudden it just changes. It's ridiculous, in my opinion. It really is. Obviously, where I'm at here, the Houston Astros are the top of the top right now. I don't know who's going to take down that pitching staff. I don't know who's going to get the job done against that team. Not only do you have to worry about that pitching staff, but they added to the bullpen, and their lineup is insanely deep. You might see a Dodgers and an Astros World Series again. And it's funny, with the Dodgers, they made no moves, and it's almost as if they think they're perfect. They already think they're perfect. It's almost as if they didn't think they needed any moves. But with the Dodgers, it's like, we know they're good. We know they're solid. We know they beat down teams left and right. But is this going to be the year where they win? Is this going to be the year where they actually find a way to win the World Series? Or do you just know, deep down, they're not going to do it? They're not going to do it. See, now you think of it as a Dodgers fan. You may know moves. And that's fine, because you can believe in your team. You can see what your squad has. Do you believe in your closer? Probably not. But you see where your team is. And then you watch the Houston Astros make that move. Now what do you think? You're in the NL, they're in the AL. I get it. It would be completely different if you're in the AL in the same league. But knowing you might have to see that powerhouse, knowing you might have to see that pitching staff, knowing you might have to see that team right now, now that move you didn't make from a Dodgers perspective, and not just the Dodgers, but they're just the team I'm picking on right now. This is any team in the entire majors. Now it's as if your move, or your no move, your lack thereof, is worse. Is worse. It hurts more because of the excellent move. Now, the Astros gave up a lot. Let's not deny that. Let's not overlook the fact that they gave up a decent amount of prospects in their pool that are respected. But here's the thing. The Astros are still young. The Astros aren't going anywhere. Part of prospects, and I'm a firm believer in this, when you're good, you use them to sell. You use them to buy, technically, but you sell the prospects, is what I'm getting at. Where are these players playing? They're not taking any of these stud spots. When you have a team like the Houston Astros do, when you look at your prospects, you need to look at every single one of them, unless they're the next Mike Trout, for trades. When you're in ready-to-go now mode, when you're in that type of mindset, you move on from these kids. So great, they're your third, fourth, fifth, whatever, best prospects. Whoop-de-doo. Guess what we have on the field now? A team that's ready to win a World Series. A team that's ready to win. So there's no argument, in my opinion. There's no argument, in my opinion. You make the splash happen. And it's also different when you can actually produce prospects. And I'll specifically look at the Yankees. Because guess what the Yankees do? They produce prospects. Every prospect they call up, what do? They hit 700 home runs. They knock in 4,000 RBIs. Then they get sent down when Stanton gets called back up or gets back from the IL. Or when Aaron Judge comes back. All those guys move back down. And then they trade some of them. And then the next guys they draft, they do the same thing. They got a great eye for actually getting prospects and then developing the prospects. You look at the Phillies and it makes you want to vomit in my mouth. But when you can do that, and you can do that so consistently, moving on from prospects is easy. Yeah, he might be good, but guess what? So are the next 5 guys we're drafting. And so are the next 3 guys we're developing. And you can use them when you're in the hunt to acquire proven guys. Proven over prospects. Now, I get it. Sometimes there's that one guy you want to hold on to and give a shot to. I understand that. one or two guys. Like, I totally understand that 100%. It also depends on the organization, though. Because the Phillies, I don't know. I don't know if I trust it. I've seen so many fails. But if I'm in the Yankees clubhouse and I'm hearing about a name, I'm keeping my eyes open. I'm keeping my ears open. Because realistically, there's a good chance that he's actually going to hit. It came and it went. Super quick. And I can't stop forgetting about how it all happened. 4 o'clock. Everyone's bummed. I had so many texts from my buddies. That's it? Really? I mean, that's it? All these little minor moves? 403, 405, 407, 418. Everything's flying around. MLB Network's going crazy. The guys are freaking out. Going nuts. Can't even keep track of all the trades. Yo, we forgot about this one. We didn't do this one yet. It's got to be such a cool time when you're an analyst. And trying to see who's going to do this. Who's going to make this move? What does this mean for that team? And breaking it down live as it happens when you first find out. Ken Rosenthal's on the screen and he's like webcamming in. He's talking, giving his first initial thoughts. You got to react as an analyst right on the spot. Wow. How does this help the Astros? How does this help the Diamondbacks? The big thing, though, when you look at this Greinke move that can't go unnoticed, is the anxiety. And I know it's not New York. I know it's not Philadelphia. I know it's not Boston. I know it's not LA. But there's pressure on the Astros to win. There's pressure on him to perform. And not like there isn't in Arizona. But there's a lot of headlines with this move. He costs a lot of money. He costed a lot of prospects. Is he going to be able to handle the pressure? There's still going to be pressure. It's not going to be New York media. It's not going to be to that level, but there's still an aggressive amount of media there. So to what level is the anxiety really there? You know? I mean, I don't know. Everyone obviously experiences it in a different form and at a different level. So obviously playing in the MLB as a whole, there's a lot of pressure, no matter what organization you're in. We'll see how it all plays out, though. I'm interested. I can't process a team beating the Houston Astros in the playoffs. I can't. They have so much depth at that starting pitching. I can't stop factoring in, or at least I can't stop thinking about Game 1, Game 2, Game 3. Where do you breathe? Where do you get that breathe moment? That, well, at least we don't have to face Verlander today. That's right. That's right. They have Cole. Well, that game's over. Well, their third guy, right? Greinke. I wish the Phillies were in that spot. There's some jealousy playing a factor. Absolutely, there's jealousy playing a factor. I want that. But no, I got to watch Vin Velasquez pitch tonight. I got to watch Jake Arrieta with a bone spur pitch tomorrow. I got to watch Zach Eflin come out of the bullpen and stink. The glory days. The glory days. I forget what a nice run is. And the Astros are on one. And it's year after year after year after year after year. They're competing at a high level. Real high level. Fighting at the top. And it's different, though. It's different than the Yankees, Red Sox. It's different than the Dodgers. It's just not that type of feel when it comes to the Houston Astros organization. But they're on a historic run outside of the big, top, insane markets. And that's why I look at the Phillies and it pisses me off because Philadelphia is a big-time sports market. We got this new TV deal. We're starting to spend the stupid money, as our owner said and our GM said this offseason. Yet here we are, spending, I believe, 12th most in baseball. All right, 12th. That's not the top, though. And that's not stupid money. That's not stupid money at all. So much going on in this trade deadline. Lots of interesting things. The Mets keep Thor. They keep Wheeler. Trevor Bauer leaves. The Indians get Puig and Reyes, even though they're still in the mix. They lose one of their pitchers. The Cubs get an outfielder. The Braves and the Nats, they get their bullpen guys. The Twins add Sam Dyson. The Giants are somewhat selling and buying at the same time, keeping Madison Bumgarner, getting Scooter. There's a lot involved. A lot. I want to hear your thoughts. Well, I guess I'll throw this in here, though. I guess I will real quick before I hear your thoughts. That fight. That was awesome. That was just awesome. To see a pitcher run out into the opposing team's dugout, start throwing punches. Now, normally baseball brawls stink. Let's be real. There's no hitting. There's fake punching. It's a little bit of wrestling. Did you really throw a pitch at me, dude? One of those. But that was a legitimate brawl. That was a legitimate frustrated two teams that really hate each other, that piss each other off, and punches were thrown. Now, nothing was legitimately hit. We're not talking Odor on Joey Bats here. But there was intent. A legit intent to fight. And I loved it. So now, we will close the podcast out. Thank you so much for listening. See you guys next time.